This morning, President Trump on the world stage, kicking off the NATO summit here in London.
I believe we're going to have a tremendous couple of days, but very big, very important. We have tremendous spirit as it pertains to NATO.
But he's also coming out swinging against one of his key allies in the alliance, the president of France. The two, once so close, their relationship was described as a bromance. But today, Mr. Trump with stern words for Emmanuel Macron.
President Macron said NATO is brain dead. I think that's very insulting.
The president slamming Macron after the French leader recently said the global alliance is experiencing the brain death of NATO. Macron made those comments in part as a criticism of President Trump's decision to pull troops out of Syria. The president firing back at Macron today.
It's a tough statement, though, when you make a statement like that. That is a very nasty statement to essentially 28, including them, 28 countries.
But President Trump has been sharply critical of NATO himself since taking office, accusing other member countries of failing to pay their fair share in defense spending.
I'm going to tell NATO, you got to start paying your bills. The United States is not going to take care of everything. And we're the schmucks that are paying for the whole thing.
Another close alliance under scrutiny, the president's relationship with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. While the two will cross paths this week, they do not have an official one-on-one meeting scheduled yet. It's unusual for a president not to meet with the host of an international summit. This year, Johnson is keeping his distance from Mr. Trump, locked in a tough fight with UK's election just a week away. Today, the president downplayed any divisions.
I'll stay out of the election. I think Boris is very capable, and I think he'll do a good job.